He's funny.
Okay, so guys, morning everybody.
Hi.
Hi, good morning.
There is no Richard in the wardrobe.
Yes. Sabi, would you like to present yourself for
Good
people?
morning.
We are online YouTube right now. I think his connection is not good. So let's start with you, please. Would you be able to present yourself for us a little bit? Just about, who you are, your name, when you worked with NUPEL and everything.
Okay, and everything would be a lot, but I'll try.
Yes. Just a short presentation.
Yeah. So I did my first degree, my undergrad degree at UFBA, and my master's as well. And it was in English as a foreign language, and my master's in language and culture. While I was doing my undergrad degree, I was invited to work at NELGI at the time, which is now called NUPEL, and much larger right now. Before it was only English and German. That was 2007, and I worked there until 2012. So that was 5 years of my life, and I believe that's what we're going to be talking about today, right?
Yes, yes.
Wonderful time, and yeah, looking forward to sharing a little bit about that. Right now I am at Goldsmiths doing my PhD. Not right now, this second, of course, because everyone is on lockdown. But I'm in London, and yeah, going towards the end of my PhD, as I have only a year and a bit left, and writing the end of the analysis, the big draft, and then of course there's revision, etc. Yeah, it's getting exciting now because and scary, because it's when you get to a point in the PhD when you have to really make your argument. You have to defend what is it that you're bringing that is new. And I have it all in my mind, like it's here, and now I have to make sure that it's clear on paper as well. So yeah, get out a little bit, but looking forward to actually having it, finished, and in a way that other people can also follow.
Yes,
So,
okay, good.
Yeah, looking forward to this conversation. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for coming, for being with us. So, to present yourself, or let's wait for someone doing it.
Who, me? Well, I'd like, instead of introducing myself, I'd like to talk a little bit about Juliana.
Yes.
Yes, so everybody probably knows me. I'm Savio, and I'm happy to be here with everybody in the Multilingual Café. But I'd like to talk a little bit about Juliana, and first of all, thank her for taking a little bit of her time, as she's saying she's very busy working on her PhD dissertation. But Juliana is a very special friend and colleague to me, because Juliana came to Letras, and since she arrived, we got, as we say in English, we got to see eye to eye with each other. And Juliana did her BA, and I had the pleasure of, being her supervisor in her monograph. And she was already becoming very interested in health, English as a lingua franca, English as an international language. And she did a beautiful work with, in her monograph. And she continued in her MA. So she did her MA also with me, working on the lingua franca core and the phonology. It was really interesting what she did, working with accents, intelligibility. So she built up I would say, a great knowledge in terms of our area. So later on, after I met Alessia Kogu, who happens to be a great friend of ours, and also her supervisor. So Juliana tried hard and finally got to do her PhD with Alessia, and now she's towards the end of her PhD at Goldsmiths. So then I think Juliana is becoming a great scholar, and I hope when she finishes, she comes to work with us, so she doesn't decide to stay in the UK and come to replace me, for example, because probably I'll be retiring soon. I will be retired by people. So then I, and also Juliana comes from an era when NUPEL didn't exist. So basically we had the different programs separated, and we had the NELG, which was basically Germanic languages, English and German. So Julie was part of a great team of great professionals that we have today, and she's part of our history in terms of English language teaching in at UFBA. So I am very glad that she's been successful in her, professional and academic life, and I'd like to thank her for being with us, sharing a little bit of her experience. And thanks Samuel for so I'm sure we're gonna have a great time, and I'll be quiet, I'll be listening, but it's really a pleasure to be here in this second cafe meeting, and I hope people who are listening or watching, I hope they have fun and get inspired by Juliana's experience. This is it. Thank you.
This is a pleasure.
This is good. This is good. Yeah. Okay, and Samuel, would you present yourself, please?
Yeah.
A little bit.
Okay. I have to confess that I'm kind of shy to talk about myself after listening to Juliana's stories.
No, you should not. You should not. You are a brilliant teacher, and we know that.
Oh.
We know that at NUPEL. You are brilliant.
And I'm feeling good to be here. It's a pleasure to me to be with you. I feel that we have great teachers here, and I really appreciate to be here. I thanks for the invitation. So my name is Samuel. I am nowadays on my last semester on NUPEL, and I thought that I would have that I would graduate at UFBA this semester, but with the coronavirus outbreak, everything has stopped. So I will have to wait a little bit to graduate myself on letras vernáculas Portuguese and English. But I started to work on NUPEL, I guess, 2018, and it was a great experience for me. It was my first time teaching, and that was remarkable for me. And I would like to share with everybody that is listening here, is watching here, how great it was to me, how great it's still to me, and that's it.
Yeah, nice, really nice, very nice, Samuel. Why we invited you to, because we would like to talk a little bit about what we do at NUPEL, as you know, in teachers education. So we invited Juliana, who has been through this, this in the beginning of her career as a teacher, and now we are inviting someone who actually is, doing this training or this education program with us to listen a little bit from you too on how important it is for you, or what advantages is it, you have on this kind of education program, and on getting in touch with the students we have at NUPEL too. So I'd like to hear a little bit of you about this.
About me?
Yeah.
Okay. As I said, it was my first experience as a teacher. I have no idea how to teach this stuff, but it was a little bit shocking in the first time. But as it is going through, I had been to many good experiences, and it was really important for me as a teacher, because as the name of NUPEL is, Professor em Formação, so I feel that is really working on me, and I'm still learning every day, every class with my students, with everybody that is connected to NUPEL. And in the beginning, it was a little bit shocking, but as it was going, I was feeling how to be a teacher. I had no idea how it was difficult to prepare a lesson plan, how to make it, how to put it on action, and everything can happen in a classroom.
Yes,
So
yes, definitely.
yeah, so it was a great experience. So now I work in another place as well, and I feel that my experience on Hotel, it was essential to me, to be able to be reasonable as a teacher, to have this experience as well. So Nopel has provided me this experience, and I'm on my last semester. I'm already missing it. I have good memories about it, and I had really good students that I have taught, and that's great.
Nice. Julie, you then.
Oh, there's so much, because in my case, it was like 5 years.
Yeah, it's a lot. You know, at the time of Nelly, we didn't have like, a maximum time for being there. So teachers worked for how long they could work. But then it changed a little bit. We
Yeah.
changed, the program, and it became NUPEL. And now at NUPEL, all the teachers stay with us for 4 semesters doing this education program or taking all this, this readings program, lesson planning. Teachers go and, watch this class, the classes from the teachers, give a feedback, and then it's a little bit changed on the practical term, but the essential is the same, which is a teacher education program. So go ahead, Julie. I was just like explaining for people who don't know, the difference between Nelgi and NUPEL.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's hard to summarize everything, but what I can say is that what marked me there was the opportunity to have like a safe place to try out new things, and I felt safe both because the coordination was always there to help us, but there's a huge side to it that sometimes we don't really mention. It's the teacher's room, right? We had an amazing time sharing things and ideas. I could learn so much from my colleagues, my peers, the people who were actually also teaching there. Um, yeah, there were people that were way more experienced than me when I entered and when I started teaching there. So I could learn from them. After a while, we were sharing things equally, and then yeah, it just felt like a wonderful place to learn from others. And also the fact that we would have from time to time the coordinators come in and watch in our classes to give us some feedback. That also was like no, it's something that I thought about sharing today. Is that it didn't feel like a threat at all, because it just felt like someone was there and they were basically championing us. Like they were there looking for ways to help us and not ways to destroy us, as we sometimes feel like fired or something. It was just a wonderful experience to have like Sabu had come by to see and watch my class. I remember I had a baby once as well, and had great feedback and things that helped me improve and also made me feel more confident as well about my practice. Yeah, so and another thing that definitely I can't forget mentioning is that Nelgi and the extension program was how I got involved in research. It's how Savu and Denise at the time together, they were working on introducing us to applied linguistics, because none of us had reached, well, most of us at a certain time, none of us had started a master's even. So we hadn't really been introduced to research. So they were the people that introduced us to this idea of reflecting on what we're doing and understanding that there is a social and a political impact to everything that we do. As educators, that we're not just instructors, we're not just like teaching a language, like a tool for people to communicate. We're actually also influencers in a way. We can promote critical thinking in the classroom, and we can empower our students in that process. So I'm gonna stop here, otherwise I'm gonna go on forever. But yeah, I'll let you guys ask more questions and maybe make it more specific because I have so much to. Yeah, I'm just so grateful for that time.
Nice, really nice.
Really, I think you made a good point that we keep insisting on making is that NUPEL, when we think about teacher education, we are basically referring to not only teaching but especially involving students with research, because that's maybe the essence of our extension program. Is not only to teach, to help students or teachers to be in acquiring experience or teaching experience, but especially doing research. And at that time we did this a lot, and I believe that this essence still goes on. And then we keep telling people, we keep advising people that they should we want to really transform NUPEL into a rich, let's say, locus of research. That's the idea.
That's so exciting.
Yeah. And it's really important that you mentioned that, Sabi, because NUPEL is not like when I go through the classrooms in the beginning of the semester, the first thing I like to tell people is that NUPEL is not only an English course. It is actually not the point of being an English course or a language course, whatever. It is like the point is like going through the educating program of the teachers. So, working with the teachers, it helps on working with the students too. Because, when you have well-prepared teachers, you are going to have also well-prepared students.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they do not only teach. That's the thing at NUPEL. I think they have to read things. They have to participate in research, as you said. They have to participate in a lot of meetings about general themes on teaching. So they follow their tutors' guidelines about some things that they are missing on the teaching. So it's like a program is not only going there and teaching. It's like all program that is settled for working with this teacher that they do outside the classroom, actually, or besides the classroom, actually, right?
Yeah. That was very important for me because I realized.
So let's.
Sorry. Go on, Sabi.
No, I was gonna say it's a turn to talk, and then after you talk, so I'm going to be quiet because I want you to talk, and Juliana also to talk. So Luciela and I have been talking too much.
Yes, a lot. Yes.
Okay.
But, with all of it, I would like to hear from you.
Mute myself.
Oh gosh, I would like to hear from you. What is the best, the best thing or the best experience, in your opinion, you had at NUPEL? The best thing and why?
Okay, that's a difficult question because we had, as I said, great experiences, many situations that were remarkable for us. But I guess that I couldn't say one moment. I wouldn't be honest with my story on NUPEL, but I guess that to get connected to students' life, that was very important for me because I realized that the classroom is not everything to learn English. For me as a teacher, I realized that by teaching, I was also learning English. I was also improving my knowledge about a second language and in general terms, and also how to speak in a different way, how to express myself as a person, not as a teacher only.
Nice.
You know? So that was very interesting for me. As everybody has said, that that's not only by English course. It's not only English course to be able to have a certificate and that's all. But it's an experience. It's a life experience of as a person, not as a student only. And that for me it was very important because, as I said, I realized too that by teaching I was also learning. I was also reviewing some subjects. I was also learning for the first time some things that I just memorized in, and a different perspective, the perspective of research. So that was very important for me. And I also realized that the classroom is not everything in students' life, because since I started to teach, I could figure out that students' life, things that they do outside the class, is also important to their knowledge, to their process of learning. So every student has a routine, has a family, has a lifestyle. So that's very important to be reasonable for that situation. As a teacher, I couldn't treat everybody like the same. So for me, it is very important for me as a teacher to know that. That's it.
Okay, Julie.
So what's the question again? The best thing?
The best
Julie,
thing about the best thing you can take for your life that you learned at NUPEL, for your life, for your career. What is the best thing you can take from it, from this experience? I know it's a lot of things, but I would like you to tell me your own opinion, your own point of view. This.
I think the thing that marked me the most, and is something that is still is present in my life today, is being able to see, after so many discussions at our research meetings, being able to see how I could apply some of that knowledge that we were discussing, especially in relation to English as a lingua franca, how I could give a certain type of feedback, how I could introduce students to new knowledge, to new information, as no like the only English or the right English, but a English. Just working things out in the classroom gave me some level of peace as well, because we went through so much turmoil in our meetings to try to reconcile this idea of English as a lingua franca being a reality in the world. And okay, what do you do with it in class? It's the big question always. And being able to see this in pretty much like basically seeing it being translated in my practice, in my everyday practice, it's just great, because Nelgi was the safest place to do that. I remember that I was working both there and in another institution, another language school. I could do that to a certain point there as well, but I had to be way more careful, because it does take certain ideological stand. Like when you're doing that, when you are taking a stand of saying, okay, we have standard English, but we have all other sorts of English. Your English is also legitimate. It could, depending on the circumstance or how you do it, it could kind of cost your job. So, having that safe space to do that at NLK really helped me translate theory and the complexities. Not all, of course, we're still working through them. We're all working through them, but some of the complexities of English as a lingua franca into classroom practice. And I remember that from that growth, I remember that even when you were working at, what was it? In Alagoinhas, what's the name? UNEB, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You invited me once to do a workshop to share exactly how we would translate using mainstream books, like teaching books, how we can use them and transform them into something that is self-aware in the classroom. And that was
I was there, wasn't I? I think I invited you. I
you were
think.
in class, yeah, you were.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was amazing because I could also share with people from outside UFBA and outside the scope of my students how I was actually doing it in the classroom and interact with another community of students, English students, undergrads. So yeah, so ELF or NELG and ELF really opened many opportunities for me.
Julie, can you talk a little bit about your, let's say, your trajectory when you finished, after you left Nelgi, what happened to your life? Can you tell us a little bit until today? Of course, I know, but it would be great to share with those who are watching. What happened to your life after NUPEL? Sorry, after NELG.
Which is NUPEL, kind of. It came from the same place.
Yeah.
What happened to my life? I continued working. No, maybe I started. I was basically working in an English school. There was a small English school. I started doing my master's as well. So I was doing my master's, and then when I started doing my master's, I started teaching at UFBA. I took on the contract of a substitute professor, which is like a temporary professor of a 2-year contract. That was also a mind-blowing experience. I just fell in love with it. I felt like I wasn't at the right place in terms of also another safe place, ideologically speaking, to develop our subversive ideas.
Yes.
We like to revolutionize.
To practice what you would like, to plan things, to have your ideas on practice.
Yes, so it is our safe haven in that sense. Of course, we still have to, sometimes we'll clash with some ideas that are still a bit more conservative, but that's part of the process as well. It's also actually quite healthy to have people that don't agree with us asking questions. So we would also check ourselves and see how much we really believe in what we're doing and maybe even change. But still amazing place. So so basically after NELG, I did a bit of private school teaching, private language institute. While from that, I had to move to UFBA only because I was doing my master's teaching as a substitute teacher, and that was crazy because it was very demanding. Because the program at UFBA, the master's at UFBA is very demanding in terms of reading. You just have to read loads. And the discussions were amazing. I had a great class, a group that was doing the masters with me. So they were very engaging. And I also had a great time in my master's. So yeah, so that was it. And in terms of up to now, there is something quite important that might motivate other people and maybe even Samuel for his future. I don't know. Sorry. In 2011, pretty much 2 years and a bit after I started my doing research with Savio in English as a lingua franca, that was the first time I applied for a PhD here.
Nice.
2011. So I tried with a proposal to study with Jennifer Jenkins, because at the time I wanted to continue working with pronunciation, and she is the one who wrote the Lingua Franca core. And also the book, The Phonology of English as an International Language. So I wanted to work with her, and I did get accepted. I got accepted twice. I think they even renewed the third time because that was years of scholarship at Southampton. Yeah, Southampton University. So there were years of looking for a scholarship, and I needed a scholarship that would cover everything because I didn't really come from a family that would be able to afford any of it. So yeah, by the way, I lived in Castelo Branco all my life. If you are from Salvador, that is interesting social information. So yeah, so it is. It's been a journey. So getting here was not easy, and having people like Savio and other research mates. Like I remember Julia and Roberta and Luciele joined us a bit later, right?
Yes. I came to Salvador in 2011, 2012, around this, 2011, 2012.
Yeah.
And then I started joining the group. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was a bit closer to them also because I was working with Julia as a substitute professor at the same time at UPBA. And they became my academic therapists, basically, trying to motivate me to not give up because it was really hard being a full-time teacher and a researcher as a volunteer, because that meant that many times I had to sacrifice my Saturdays to read and be able to participate in the meetings and having actually read the text. So I had to give up on a lot of rest to be able to do that. And you get tired of doing things and not actually seeing any fruit. But then I'm so grateful for these people that stood by me, like Savio and Roberta, Julia, and others that helped me not give up. Yeah, and just continue trying. And 2016, 2015, I tried the Doctorado Pleno, the full doctorate program by CAPES. But then there was a document that I got wrong when I submitted, and they're very, very strict when it comes to documents. So they never really saw my proposal or anything. I was disclassified. I was cut out of the process at the very beginning. So in 2016, I got all my documents right. And that's the first time they actually looked at my proposal. And I had also amazing help from Savio and Suzanne Mota, who's now a friend of mine. She was a professor in my program as well. Suzanne Lima Costa, sorry, not Mota. Suzanne Lima Costa.
Yes.
And they were great helping me craft my proposal. And when I submitted that, finally, yay, like a 1 year of
the application until the end.
1 year preparation. Let's think like this. 1 year preparation, Julie.
It was a huge, because there were many steps in the competition.
Actually, the process took 1 year, right?
Yes, exactly. It's 1 year. Like they did publish the results, then saying that like documents are okay, and then 3-4 months later, blah 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 is okay, and then so many months later, blah 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 is okay, and then the final results came out in July, I think, the beginning of July, and I was here in September, so I had to really rush to get my visa. It was a lot of work. So I'm just saying there's Samuel and other people who might be listening and watching in the future even. Yeah, if you really want it and you think that this is what you want to do with your life, you should not give up. And I'm not saying that studying in England was my dream. What I wanted was to continue with my studies. So what happened was the thing I wanted to study then was the thing that Alessia was doing, Professor Alessia Kogo. So it was really handy and quite important that I would be studying with her directly. So yeah, when people ask me, why did you come to London? I say, I came here because Alessia was here. If she were in China, I would be in China right now. Because I was chasing the professor. I was chasing the supervisor. I'm just lucky I like the city.
Let's open up.
Anywhere.
Let's open up parentheses for, I don't know how many people are listening. In also, this is important, what the point you made, because sometimes people say, oh, I want to study graduate studies in London or in the US or whatever, but then it's important to remember that you go where you are accepted.
Yes.
And where the person that will accept you, so your supervisor, works. So that's why first you tried Southampton, and then because you didn't get the scholarship from the British government, you tried the scholarship from the Brazilian government.
Yeah.
And you went where your supervisor was. So your supervisor is in London, you go to London. If your supervisor were in Taiwan, you would go to Taiwan. So
Yeah.
because basically that's how it works. So I have, for example, now one student from Tocantins, and if I am in both programs at UFBA and also Universidade Federal Tocantins. She said, I want to be where my supervisor is. And then she moved from Maranhão to be here with me, and it's not the first one. So you also have lots of people from abroad that come to Salvador or to Rio or São Paulo, not because of the university only, but especially because of the supervisor. So the person that will supervise your dissertation or thesis, this is important. So
Yes.
and of course, you have to establish a great relationship with your supervisor. Otherwise, things won't work out, right?
That's a funny, interesting point because we kind of had to work on that a little bit in the beginning because it's funny when you talk to someone and have a relationship with them outside the context, it's a different kind of relationship. And then when you turn into professor and student or advisor and advisee, supervisor and supervisee, it's also different because there is different things at play. So she had a new responsibility in relation to me. It wasn't just when she was visiting Salvador and we were hosting her. So that was completely different kind of relationship. So when we got here, and then I got here, and then we had to work together. We had to find our language, our common language. Let's say we both spoke English fluently. That was not an issue. It was more like trying to speak the same academic language, I think. The academic culture in Brazil is very different from the academic culture here. I thought I was only going to have some sort of cultural shock with maybe the social side of it, like the formalities, but that was a small part of it. Like also how you write things and how you expose your ideas. Just the writing process is very different, I'd say. So we needed some time to find a common ground and a common language, and finally we did in time. After many times of her like telling me to do one thing and I did another, and me getting frustrated, a little bit of crying here and there.
You experience all the time, beginning with your supervisor, English as a lingua franca, because she's Italian living in London.
Yes.
Living in London.
Living in London,
in an ELF environment all the time, right?
All the time, yeah.
Yes, it was very multi-layered, I would say, because she is Italian, but she was also playing by the culture of the UK university. There was that, like, maybe I would say that this her way of communicating, but there is also the expectations of the institution and the scholars here in general, what they find acceptable, what they find valuable, what they don't find interesting. And right. I don't want to go too long on this because this is very research specific. I would just allow you guys to ask another question.
Good. Turn on to Samuel again. Samuel.
Yeah, exactly. Go on.
Yeah, I got really inspired by Juliana's speech because in the beginning we have a lot of dreams and a lot of goals to reach, but we have to accept that there are a lot of opportunities that happens in our life, so we have to be open to it. We have to have this idea of going through things that it is necessary to go through and to reach some goals. It's not wrong to have dreams, it's not wrong to have goals, but we have to be open to these opportunities that happen, right? So for me, it's very important to listen to it, to have a hope for my future, but also accept some things that happen.
Right.
Definitely,
right.
yes. Guys, we
Julie,
have
tell us a little bit about your routine in London now.
Now,
Yeah.
on
I mean,
lockdown.
not because of the pandemic, but for example, what is your routine, let's say a little before the pandemic and, as a student, as a graduate student? Tell us a little bit about it.
Um, Basically, I was going to. We don't have classes. That's something important to say. Like here in the linguistics PhD program, we don't have modules. We don't have. We
Right.
don't attend classes.
Disciplines, right? Disciplines.
Yes. There. Yeah. You guys call it disciplines. Here, for some reason, they call it modules.
Mhm.
So we don't have any mandatory modules. We are allowed to audit classes. So when I started the very first semester, I audited Alessia's class because basically auditing is what we call in Portuguese be a listener. Being a listener, you're auditing. So I was there for her whole module on English in a multilingual world, something like that, because she wanted to make sure that I would have covered all the basic literature that she was teaching the master's course. So that was
Mhm.
great because I had covered most of it previously, and so I felt more comfortable being there,
Mhm.
and I also really enjoyed listening to the classmates who were from all over the planet. They were from all over the planet, and they had such an insightful perspective into English as a lingua franca and all the debates. So that was really,
Mhm.
really precious. Mostly, yeah, of course, I benefited a lot from having Alessia as my like professor, as a teacher, because it's different from having somebody read your stuff and give you feedback, and and actually being in a class with them teaching. She's phenomenal as a teacher as well. She uses language that people who are not acquainted with the topic can follow. Yeah, so no, I'm gonna stop there. So the classes were amazing. It was only one. Um,
Right.
I have only two other peer researchers who are doing a PhD, and both are Chinese. The fourth one is kind of half existent because she is in Italy. So
Mhm.
she is doing a part-time PhD in Italy. So I've seen her twice, one in a conference and another visit.
Mhm. Mhm.
So yeah,
But tell us,
we
for example, you don't have to go to the university all the time. You stay home.
that's
Well,
yeah. I was gonna mention that
normal days.
I I was going to university because I wanted to about 3 times a week to study at the
Mhm.
library, basically to feel like I had workmates. Because I
Mhm.
wanted to be surrounded by people doing the same thing. Otherwise, it becomes too lonely, and it doesn't really feel like I'm progressing even. Um,
Yeah.
it's too isolated. And my meeting with Alessia would happen like once a month, sometimes even 2 months, depending on how
Mhm.
much I have to cover before I meet her again. Um, so yeah, so it was
So
mostly
it's
myself.
important to mention, Julie, that it's different from our programs, because in our programs we still have disciplines, we still have the groups get together and they have to complete a certain number of credits. And then
yes.
for Brazilians who are not used to this, sometimes it's difficult to understand, and
Adapt.
also
Yes.
the ones who go, I was reading that PhD programs, especially, it's a great source of divorce and
Mm-hmm.
also depression,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of people really, if you don't manage your life, in a way that you can interact with people, if you just lock yourself in your house, or if you don't really build up a sort of a network of friends and colleagues. So it gets to be difficult. And also, if you go with a partner, this partner needs to be very well aligned to what you'll be doing, because sometimes you have to dedicate fully to your research. And then the partner is there, and of course, he or she wants attention. He or she cannot work, but he or she needs to be, let's say, busy. And then just to give an example, I have a friend that in the US, he divorced twice.
Wow.
So, but it's true. So then it's very different, and you have to know how to manage your life, not only academic, but also emotionally, right?
Yes.
Oh,
Definitely.
yes. It really, to be like a little vulnerable, like last year, it really hit me, like, because I wasn't really looking after myself in terms of having enough, like a number of friends. I was always happy with 2 or 3. And then when all my friends were traveling and away for like 1 or 2 months at a time, I found myself completely alone. And yeah, and then when you are like completely alone, only working, and everything is not familiar to you, because when you are in a foreign country, it's really exciting in the beginning, but then everything becomes like, oh, the air is different, the food is different, the culture is different, everything is different. It becomes a lot of work also. So it really hit me. I felt I was quite depressed, like in the middle of last year, and then I had to be very intentional about building a network of friends that is much larger today. But still, it's like you said, it's something that you have to work as hard on as on
Right.
yourself. And
Right.
it does take a lot of discipline to work when you don't have a boss to report to every day.
Yeah,
And
you manage your own life, right? You manage your
yeah,
own life, so
yeah,
you have to be very
absolutely.
well planned.
Uh, my supervisor is too busy to care about how fast I'm going, and so I have to care about how fast I'm going.
And also because your supervisor has more than 5, 6 people in the same situation, so then it's difficult to give very personal attention. For
Yeah,
example, I have 12 advisees. I cannot give special attention to all of them, or one of them, so it's really hard. But I'd like you mentioned here the culture. Can you tell us a little bit about any culture shock that you went through in London, especially related to, I don't know, anything that you found very, because you had been to the UK
yeah,
before,
yeah.
so then it was not the first time, and also you had contact with people from different cultures. But how can you tell us some, I don't know, something that really it was really it caused you something, some type of I don't know, it had to do with culture shock, even
Yeah.
in a place that a lot of people know about, London, this big cosmopolitan city. Share this experience with us, please.
Yeah, sure. The hardest part was the how reserved people are and how difficult it is to make friends at a closer level, to be close to people, because they're very guarded and it takes a long time, and also
Mhm.
they're so busy that it's hard to actually meet with people. And then of course friendship takes time, and time together and interacting. So if you put those things together, like the culture of a big city where people are really guarded and
Mhm.
reserved, um, and the also part of being part of a big city, that people don't really have much time. Like when you want to schedule a coffee with someone, it's got to be like 2 or 3 weeks. You find a slot of 1 hour, an hour and a half to talk. Um, so that was hard, and yeah, and another thing that is very important, I think, for us as Brazilians, and maybe considering different cultures, probably I'm probably be more specific now about the British culture. Something that I always mention is that there's a huge difference between what people say and what they mean here. There is a lot of niceties, as we say. Like people are very pleasant and polite, but you don't know if they actually like you because they're so good at being polite.
So
That
they
you think that
they
they
keep
love
a
you.
distance, right?
They think they love you because they're so like, oh, blah, blah, very expressive, but it doesn't really mean anything, really. Like when
Right.
they say, let's meet
So
for
they
coffee,
sort of
and we
keep a
never really schedule anything. You know, this kind of thing. It's a huge problem for me that I still have to grapple with. Yeah, even today, like sometimes I have close friends that are British, especially English, because the Scottish are a bit easier, I think. They are kind of the chinos of Britain. They are like really friendly, most of them, of course. Of course, I'm generalizing a lot. But in general, Scottish people are a bit warmer and more talkative, etc. But English people tend to be really polite and nice to your face, and you don't really know what they mean when you actually engage with them. So that was hard. So I would go to my close friends that are English and ask them, what do you think so and so meant when they said this? So I had consultants, cultural consultants.
Yeah.
Cultural consultant is good.
The situation was this, this, and that. And they replied in an email like this. What do you think they meant? Do you think that they actually want me to reply the email? Or they were just being nice? So
Right. Yeah, that's good.
huge
It's good to have these consultants because we never know, right? We never know. It's good to
Yes.
have them.
Yes.
Yeah.
People,
Yeah, Samuel, go ahead.
we have some questions from the people who are watching us actually, and I would like to
Oh, good.
ask you about this. So
Yeah.
Amanda's asking, what was the funniest situation you have experienced in a classroom?
Okay, let me talk for a while. I had an experience that we were dealing with a problem with the air conditioner in the last semester because of the money income of the government for the university. So we got to teach without the air conditioner, and the classroom had to be open. So I tried to make a board game race. You know, the game that we put a line. Everybody has to use a Padlet to write something in the board and return to give another student, and the other student had to go to the board and write another thing. So it's a game that really thrills the students. They got crazy and excited about it. So in the classroom were open, so the doors, you know. So it was a lot of noise, and every teacher near to my classroom went to my classroom to tell me what is happening here. Is everything okay there? Because it's a lot of noise here. It's everything okay? So the board game race with the doors open, it caused a lot of problems. So don't do this.
But I bet the students were loving it.
Yeah, they were.
It was a good class anyway. Okay, Julie, and you?
Oh man, because I haven't taught for almost
Funny
3 years
situation.
now. I haven't taught for almost 3 years now, so I can't really think of anything specific. I remember having a great time, like, and having great laughs, and that's why I liked teaching adults and teenagers, because they were actually able to follow my jokes. But I can't remember anything specific. Sorry.
Okay, no problem anyway. No problem anyway. We have another question over there, like how many teachers the NUPEL formed? I mean, educated last period. Okay, we have around, for every semester, we have around 60 something teachers who are working with us, students, teachers, right? So they spent 4 semesters with us. The case Samuel this semester, for example. Samuel is going to finish this semester, and then he's finished with the program at NUPEL. So it depends on each semester. I guess last semester we had a lot of them. I think 20 finished, around 20 something finished the education program with us. So it depends on the semester. Sometimes there are not many, sometimes there are a lot. So it depends on the semester. But I would like to get back the question to Samuel, especially,
Okay.
and to, but to Samuel, asking you, what would you tell beginner teachers, the ones that were starting now for their first semester at NUPEL with us? What would you advise them?
Okay. I would tell that they should be aware that to wait the time, because when we start to teach, we are so expecting things to change, to have a perfect class since the beginning, and it doesn't really work in the beginning, and it's not a problem, it's important to have to wait the time to things to happen, and it to realize that you are in process, you are developing, you are also improving your skills on speaking, vocabulary, grammar, and all the areas that you can think of. So if you try to realize that it's good to be wrong sometimes, it is good to fail sometimes, because you can learn a lot of things. So don't be afraid of it. Don't fear that situation.
Mistakes, right?
Yeah, everybody has it. Everybody does it,
Yes.
and it's normal. And in these mistakes will help you to learn something about you, to learn something about people, and that's important. That's good. That helps us a lot.
Yes, nice, really nice. Julie, any you? What would you tell beginner teachers?
I would say don't be afraid to ask for help and advice, because I learned so much from people who had begun before me. And yeah, just put your pride aside a little bit and just listen, and maybe even watch classes that other people are teaching, because that puts the pressure off a little bit. Because and yeah, so I would say take the opportunity to learn, and remember that you're learning. You're not supposed to become a teacher overnight. You need time. I'm still learning to be a teacher.
Yes.
I had been teaching for 15 years when I stopped teaching about 3 years ago. And I was still feeling like I was learning every day, because you don't learn, of course, only from the people who are teaching, but you learn from your students as well, because each person has a different need and a different way of learning. So as you get to meet other people and different characteristics and needs, you get to reinvent yourself and think of new possibilities for your teaching. So yeah, it's a lifelong process of learning more than
Yes,
teaching.
definitely. No. I always like to say that when you are teaching, you are always a learner too. You are always learning. You never stop learning. You never stop studying. You never stop, developing yourself. So you are always a learner.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, and the other question is, it's for Julie actually. Julie, how do you feel about teaching in both countries? I mean, you don't teach in London, right? You didn't have this experience, but how do you feel? What are the good and not so good aspects in your opinion? If you can, you didn't teach in London, you don't teach in London, but can you compare a little bit? How do you feel about the situation teaching in Brazil, teaching in London?
I would say the experience I have from going to seminars and also auditing Alessia's class, that's basically the experience I have here. Also, well, in 2010, I came here to do a teacher's course, so I also got to watch a few classes when I was taking the training. Well, I'd say that the good thing about here, the students here, is that from what I watched, is that they have a lot at stake. It feels like they invested so much that they really need to get something out of it. It's expensive being here, and I think for most of the class, they were either not from here, or like they were internationals, or they were doing most. From what I gathered in the culture here, they were also studying on a loan, like a student loan. So there is always a lot at stake. And in Brazil, there is this thing that we're having. Well, when I was teaching at UFBA, for example, because it's public, maybe I think sometimes students are not as engaged in that sense.
Yes.
So because you can take your time, and you can do things according to what you can or should at the time. Anyways, I just felt like the students were a bit more devoted, like dedicated to studying. Not everyone, of course, and yeah, and the difference is also that huge difference. The code of conduct here is much stricter. We really have to, as teachers, I could observe that adjust the way you speak. There's a huge demand on a huge pressure on you being very professional in the way you treat people and how you conduct yourself, and even how you present yourself. Yeah, there is more professionalism, I would say, which might be at first. It seems like a bit suffocating, but I think it works well, like long term. It becomes a safer place, I think, for everyone, like for the students and the teachers. In terms of the good stuff and bad stuff of Brazil, teaching in Brazil, I actually love the fact that we can be more comfortable with our students, although it comes with problems that might come from that, like you can be too comfortable.
Yes.
So,
I get it.
yeah, it becomes a lack of professionalism. It can be a lack of professionalism and respect also in both ways. Uh, like the student to the teacher and the teacher to the student. Um, but I love how much warmer we can be with our students and how much loving we can be even with our students because we don't have this professional barrier. So it's a really hard balance to keep, I guess. But I would rather have freedom and watch myself in how professional I am than be completely monitored all the time by a very strict kind of code of conduct. Yeah, both have benefits and downsides, I guess.
I imagine, yeah.
Yeah, the students in Brazil, there are so many different types. In general, what I would say is that because my experience of teaching in Brazil, the greatest thing is that I got to know them as people. Because of this easiness that we have to actually be in contact with people as people, not so much as just my students. So I actually became friends with some people along the way. We developed a friendship later. Like I remember with Bia, for example, that became also it became your supervisee, right?
Yes. Yes.
We became friends later. Like she started as a student. And that's the good side of it. We have brilliant students in Brazil as well, very dedicated people in Brazil. And we have another side of difficulty to overcome, which is the social divide. And I really value people who have fought so much like I did. I used to travel an hour and a half, 2 hours by bus to get to UFBA to do my undergrad degree. And it was 4 hours of my life a day to be able
just
to have
going and coming, yes,
to education. So I really value how much harder we have to fight for our education, and yeah, that's amazing.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to change a little bit the question for you. It's like you just told us, you mentioned before that you are working currently in other schools, right? In private schools.
Yeah, private.
So would you be able to tell me a little bit the difference about, teaching at NUPEL and teaching at other places like private schools or something? Is there a difference? How do you look at this?
Okay. It's a lot of different. It has a lot of different because when we teach at NUPEL, we can feel that the atmosphere is different. The way that you talk with the the teachers, the way that you talk with your classmates is different because the target and the goal is not having many students and having money. It's about providing a good place, a safe place to teachers learn how to deal with some important things on classroom. To teachers develop their sense of researching, their sense of learning English. And when it goes to the private course, you have to deal with some tension that is connected about money. Because the goals it's likely different, and the way that the way that people above you treat you is different because they don't are committed to your development as a teacher. Only they are committed to see your everything working out in a way that they have more students, they have more money and that stuff. So you know the difference. So it's different because my relationship with the people that are above me, let's put in this term, that like for example, you and Savio, Daniel, and
Yeah.
it's different because the way that you treat me is in a way that you want me to improve something, but it's a different, the mood is different, you know.
Right.
But I'm very happy because I had this experience on Nupel. But I guess that I was a little bit bad with the people from the private course, but they are good also. I have good classmates. I have good students, good teachers there, and it's good experience as well. I learn a lot of with them as well. And
Yeah.
but I can see that there is a tension connected to money, connected to different goals, different targets to reach.
Yes,
Okay.
there are different environments, right, Samuel?
Yeah,
Because at NUPEL, our main concern is to have you develop along the time, expecting mistakes, expecting all kinds of situations that we can help, and there'll be no, let's say, no threats.
yeah, yeah,
When you go into professional life, especially teaching in a private institution, this private institution will demand from you other, let's say, types of things that you have to do because they have their clients,
yeah,
they have their regulations. So then it's not easy. But as you say, you do have people that are involved in really language education. Not everybody is,
Yes.
just thinking of making money. So
yeah,
you
Definitely.
have
Yes.
but it's different. It's different in this sense because at NUPEL, we want, the teacher that is very green. We don't want
Yes.
actually experienced teachers because they already, they have the
yeah.
experience. We want the green ones exactly to help them grow. You see?
Yes.
Yeah,
We actually want the ones who had never had any experience.
Yeah,
yeah,
That's
yeah.
the ones that are good to work with. That's the ones we should work, we aim at, because that's the ones that we can help, because if they are already experienced, we can help so much. So the
Yeah.
green ones, we can actually educate them and give them like good practices or good
yeah,
ideas or good suggestions
Mhm.
and work with them, develop them.
yeah.
Yeah, nice. João Flávio has asked, but I think Julie has already answered this about the difficulties she had about getting comfortable in another country, studying, living in another culture. I think you already talked a little bit about this. Then the last question for today is from Amanda too, and she asked, have you ever had a class where everything went wrong and you had to come up with a plan B? And then the plan B turned out even better than what you had previously planned?
Can I pass this on to Samuel as well? It's been so long.
I pass to Luciana and Savio. Just kidding. Just kidding. But I think that it has happened to everybody here, because that's why a classroom is an interesting place to make research, because you prepare things and you are up to do things, but when those things went wrong, because the mood of the classroom is different that day, because some students weren't there that day, so many things can happen. And when you do things that was not planning to do, and you see that it works, and you see that your students get involved to it, and you see that your students brings their own idea, you will list something through them, and they bring you ideas to do. They change your games, they change your plans, and it really works. It's very interesting to feel that.
Nice. I think every teacher has gone through a situation like this.
Yeah.
You prepare everything, you plan it very carefully, but then when you arrive there, something very tiny happens, and everything, is blown out, and then you have to come up with something new at the time. I think every teacher has gone through a situation like this. And it doesn't feel nice. I can tell you, it doesn't feel nice, because we prepare with so much care, and then when you arrive there, everything goes wrong.
Yeah.
But there is a situation where something gets better when you don't prepare it so much. But the good point is when you are prepared for this, when you have this plan B in your mind, when you have options in order to apply, right? Julie.
Can I ask a question to Samuel?
Yeah, of course.
Sure.
I thought of one, because that's something that really marked me about working at NELG. How do you feel about the mix of different social classes in the classroom? The students of all different sorts of professional backgrounds and different neighborhoods, and completely different lives even. At this playing field. How does that work for you? How do you feel?
Yes. That is something that I had to deal since my first class, because NUPEL has this, having people from different ages, people from different social statements and this stuff. And it's very interesting because the way that we treat them, the way that we deal with it, it's very important to us as a citizen, as a person, because we have to think on that way in every area of our lives, and especially in classroom, especially in education. And it's very important to me because I had to be reasonable to each of them. I had to give attention to each of them. In the last semester, I had a person that was 80 years old, and that was very crazy. And I mean, I don't know how to say. I don't know how I deal with them in a specific way, but I can assure you that I try to be aware of their needs or their. I have to be aware that I couldn't go out the classroom just because a few students understood what I said. But I had to be aware of each of them. I know it's difficult when you have a crowded classroom, but I guess NUPEL has taught me that to be aware of each of them, to be reasonable to their needs. And I had some students that, for example, I had a student that were attending to my class at Friday, I guess 6 p.m. And she always got late, and I asked her what is happening. You're getting late, and she said to me that she lives in another city, she works in another city, and she goes to NUPEL by bus. So, how could I treat her in the same way that I could treat another person that lives near and goes by car, and so I had to be reasonable to that.
I think, Samuel, this is what makes a difference when we see teachers as educators, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not only a matter of tolerance; it's a matter of sensitivity, as you said, awareness, and because we live in a very unequal society, and our goal is exactly to include everybody. For example, when we offer scholarships, especially to students from those disadvantaged classes, so we need to talk about them. We need to make sure they're not invisible, because they will come with their experiences, they'll come with their difficulties. We need to include them. And that's why I keep telling people, when we are aware and sensitive to these differences, it's much easier to teach lessons and include these people, especially when it comes to the routine of the classroom. For example, materials that talk about traveling. And then you have a group of people that travel every year, people who have money to go places very easily. On the other hand, in the same group, you have someone who never left Salvador, or someone who barely has the possibility to go to the island, let's say this way. So what do we do? Do we just talk about, the lives of the people who travel, who have money? Of course not. We need to adjust, the classroom to include everybody, right?
Yes.
So that's why teaching is much more than knowing the language, knowing the code. So teaching
And
is
including everybody,
beyond.
Sabi. Yes, and including everybody means giving them an opportunity to participate.
Yes, yes,
When you adapt things, you do not only include, you give them the opportunity.
yes.
Give them the opportunity. What from him, what things from his life he can
Yes.
contribute for this group, because everybody has something to contribute, and
Yeah.
when you give them this opportunity, you just not only include, you actually put him in a place where he can contribute, or he feels like he can contribute.
Yeah, when Julie said, for example, she's very happy that she is among a lot of people from different cultures, born UK born or not. But for example, people from other places that the parents came to the UK and then they're born in the UK, but their descendants come from different cultures. So even in a monolingual environment like ours, we have different cultures.
Yeah.
So, for example, someone from the interior has different cultures from someone from the capital. In Salvador, someone from the lower city, the Cidade Baixa, has different cultures and behaviors from someone from, let's say, Baja or Brotas, whatever. So our goal is exactly that. As teachers, try to be sensitive to what the students bring to class, right? So that's what makes really a different teacher, not someone who knows the language and talks about grammar, blah blah blah. So being a teacher is much more complex than we can think of.
Yeah.
I think we have 5 minutes.
Yes. I think it's time to finish, Sabi. We can finish anyway. If you have anything else to say, guys, Samuel, Julie, I would like really to thank you for being here, for, taking your time and being here with us this morning. This is something we are attempting to get our students with us, connected with us, practicing the language somehow, talking about some things somehow. And then we would like to thank you too for being with us and sharing your experience with us.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. I just wanted to thank you for this opportunity. It's been great to take this trip down memory lane. Actually, to talk about good stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, because memories are always great, but this one is awesome. Yeah,
Memory lane, huh?
yeah. So I just wanted to actually agree with Savin and say that I'm really, really proud of being someone that came from UFBA and had this background with you guys that developed so deeply the educator aspect of our education. So we are so much more when we're learning with you guys. We learn that we're so much more than just instructors. Like we're not people who are teaching a code. We are people who are actually equipping people to be more themselves, to grow into
Yes.
themselves.
To be citizens.
Exactly, and there is such our role is so much more encompassing, and this is a huge mark in my heart. Really, it formed me as a person, not only as a professional.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just really, really thank Ufa for that. And I'll always be available whenever I can do anything with you guys. It's always a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Great, Julie. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And thanks Samuel for
Oh,
being with us too.
It was a pleasure to be here.
Great, Samuel. And then to talk to people because we are going to have more. So
Yes, yes, we are.
If I can just finish, I'd like to tell people that the cafe is a multilingual cafe, and we will have several activities in French, Spanish, Latin, and also in the African languages. We are teaching now Yoruba and Kimbundu. Very soon there will be a wonderful program.
Yes.
And next week we are going to have Professor Noelia. We are going to work together because she prepared with Lara and some other students a wonderful program on Bloomsday. I think the Irish culture.
Irish literature, yes.
Yeah, lots of activities, not in English, open to the public. But then the cafe will be running, in different,
all the time. Yes, and we are going.
Languages.
Yes, and we are going to our Instagram and Facebook to let you guys know when we are going to have dates, what are the themes we're going to talk about. So keep connected a little bit. And I would like to thank you, everybody who are commenting here at the YouTube channel. A lot of people thanked us. A lot of people complimented Samuel for his classes. You see, Samuel?
Yeah.
So, who participated with questions. So I'd like to thank you guys who were with us, connected with us, and participating too, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay. Thank you, guys. It
Well,
was awesome to be here.
have a great week.
You have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend. Julie, thank you very much. Be safe there in London. Say hello to Alessia when you see her, if you see her.
Yes,
At least in person.
Julie, nice to meet you. It was nice to hear you.
Very nice to meet you too, Samuel. I'll see you around sometime soon, I hope.
Yes.
Yeah. So take care, everybody. Lucienne, I'll see you later.
See you later, Savio. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for being with us. Bye.